guys, this is Breaker, and looks like I've got another replay that I took from Casted to give you guys today. So, and this map is of course Whirlwind LE version. I'll go ahead and give both players an introduction, and I'd like to get on with reintroducing what exactly I'm trying to do in the near future. In the lower left-hand corner, spawning is our red Protoss. His name is EternityYosh. No, and I'll just call him Yosh. And in the upper in the upper right-hand corner, spawning is our Zerg Trunks. His name is Geeden or Geeden. Geeden. I'm thinking this could be a Dutch name. Yeah, I mean, like, very rarely do we see any, any arrangement of letters such as that in English language. But anyway, let's get the game underway. And well, it looks like we've got a bit of time. We're gonna have both players basically macro now, so getting around that. So, what's new with Breaker? To be quite honest, nothing. There is going to be the Asia StarCraft League starting this Thursday, and it will be every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7 a.m. U.S. Central Time Zone. I'm not quite sure what that would be for anyone in Australia or New Zealand. I do know that in Central European Time it's about, I'm thinking here, 7-hour difference between here and CT. That means it would be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it would be about, okay, for those of you who are close to Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, what I can tell you is that this will be at 8 o'clock in the evening. GMT plus 8, so I guess maybe due to time difference between the places that you guys are living in now and Taiwan or China, and you guys basically have it figured out. Some notable things about the Asia StarCraft League this time around. Well, in comparison to last season there was a rather diverse, if you will, player pool. We did have NSP Rossi. Yeah, I believe, no, Pig didn't enter. Moonblade did not enter. I believe it was invitational only. Last season there was basically every member of the Prime team, and looks like we've got, okay, Geeden, yeah, he basically got tricked into it. He got tricked into going a drones just now to deal with the pylon that went down. I knew he wasn't going to let that happen. And of course, I mean, this is just one way that we can see a double hatch opener on this map could be slightly viable. But of course, the late mining time, pulling that many drones is definitely looking for Yosh. Back to the Asia StarCraft League. This time around, most of the players will be coming from mainland China. I can also think of one pro that came from Thailand last season. I think there could even be an American military, but I can't even verify that because Hello Kitty is such a, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like such a common name, to be quite honest. But I'd like to check something out real quick. Let's see. So HoTS right now. Barcode. Real name. Okay. Do you even HoTS? Okay. Yeah, that's just something that's new with the observer interface. Still trying to figure this thing out. Third hatch going down at 5 minutes 13 seconds for Hayden. And let's see here. So far so good. Both players are just really macroing up. Gonna kick on the production tab. Sorry guys, it's something to get used to with this observer interface. I'm used to using the classic one that people have essentially been using since the StarCraft 2 days. I mean, well, since the Wings of Liberty days is what I mean to say. I've been saying that a lot. I need to work that out of my vocabulary. That is the part. Robotics Bay going down now for EternityYosh. And the last thing that I want to mention about the Asia StarCraft League, at least in passing, is it would be a good way for, I mean, if you guys want to basically get a little more familiar with the Chinese-speaking scenes, I can't say what exactly all the new clans are about, but it looks like we have a lot of new blood this time around. Let's say I'm seeing clan names that didn't exist last season that are in the roster, so that's leading me to believe that we're going to see more and more brave amateurs, more and more new bloods stepping up to the plate. And that's about it from my end. So let's go ahead and get on with this. I do know that we saw a robotics bay earlier, and I'm a little curious as to see, you know, just how is this going to get followed up. I mean, both players are going with essentially classic openings since the Wings of Liberty days. Let me see here. How do I check a unit's abilities? Is that Control D? No, sorry. I really gotta learn more about this observer interface. Okay. Now we have this small force from EternityYosh now moving out. He said in his own words he wanted to try some Naniwa tactics. I'm a little curious as to why he didn't use this pylon to warp in more units, but it looks like I don't know. It just looks like it wasn't a high priority for him at the time, and I'm a little kind of disappointed in Geeden for not taking control of the Xel'Naga Watchtower. It's quite essential to for Zergs to have map control. It's essential for anyone to have map control. But what on earth does he see here? He sees two zealots coming from this direction, actually moving down to take the Xel'Naga Watchtower. He's actually putting his lings in the wrong positions. I say sort of wrong, but not really religiously wrong. And it looks like we're going to see Yosh move on to the third, and there's just essentially nothing here to deal with that just yet. There's only a handful of roaches over here, and their positioning is actually, I want to say, quite favorable to Yosh. If he ever decided to go ahead and just use some force fields, but he has no sentries. Oh boy, it looks like we're gonna have to see Geeden essentially pull drones. No, you're screwing it up. You're supposed to click on a mineral patch, that way they run past the zealots, and it looks like we have the Great Drone Massacre going down at Geden's third. Roach is now moving in to engage. It looks like they're gonna get an immortal. Yes, undoubtedly. Third does fall, unfortunately. And I'm just wondering to myself, just what kind of chance does Geeden have in the rest of this? I mean, sure, there's a lot of lings, there's a lot of roaches, but in return, there's also a few sentries and a lot of zealots. Zealots are basically the, you know, they're the essential hard counter to lings, and right now, we can see that EternityYosh has a lead in every way imaginable. You know, economically, he's got a higher army count. The only way I can see Geeden holding this is if he just immediately throws down a bunch of spine crawlers, or if he just gets extremely good positioning. Oh boy! And one queen will fall here. That's not going to help the production at all. And roaches right now have been caught in a time warp that actually reduces their attack speed as well, if I'm not mistaken. This was not a too terribly good engagement for Yosh, and I think he's got to pull back. The zealots are not here to actually tank for those zerglings. That means the zerglings are actually going to, like, widely to work on Yosh's zealots, excuse me, stalkers, like piranhas to a pork loin in the water. Observer is, of course, waiting here, just checking and seeing, you know, what we're going to have from Yosh, or excuse me, checking to see what we're going to have from Geeden. And Geeden sent in a sacrificial overlord earlier. If he's paying attention right now, he can see that there's no visible tech up, and it looks like both, you know, this is where the dust clears and both players are like, okay, where do I go from here? What he does not see, he knows that there is a robotics bay, but he does not see the Twilight Council. I think it would be more than appropriate to go ahead and sacrifice this overlord to see it, but unfortunately at this present time and situation, he can only see the robotics bay. We also see the Stargate in production now for EternityYosh. Alright, so here we go. A bunch of lings are moving across the map. They finally scouted that pylon, and now they're going to try and eat it. And Geeden is spreading overlords and creep at the same time. I'm liking this move. Allows him to get more reinforcements out, excuse me, faster. And he knows that in order to really come back in this game, he's going to have to take a double expo. Maybe use one of these hatches as a macro hatch. I think if he has simply one base on full saturation, one of these new bases on full saturation, excuse me, and one of these bases on half saturation, it would be more than worth it.
But now we have a Warp Prism moving out, and any critical tech of any form, not that I can think of. This is an interesting follow-up from Yosh, really. I mean, we have no vital engagements going on right now, and he's just adding salt to the wounds of Geeden, to be quite honest. If he can actually, like, force a cancel, or even... Wait a minute. This is rather clever. I think he's waiting for the appropriate timing to... I don't know, this could be a timing. It really could be a timing, guys. He could be waiting for this base to finish up and then move the Warp Prism onto it. It's now, I don't know, maybe... No, I can't see any of the drones, never mind. Okay, now I know what he's doing. He's actually waiting for the creep to show up, and then he's gonna try and throw some zealots at it. Not a bad idea at all, but meanwhile the transition that we see from our Zerg is he's going immediately into hive tech. That means he has an infestation pit, but what else does he have in terms of tech? Does he have a spire? Baneling nest, interesting follow-up. Burrowed banelings, I think, could, you know, I mean, if you have 4, 5, 6 of them all in the right location, then, you know, it could be powerful, but at the same time, we have to see meticulously good use of burrowed banelings. They're very risky versus Protoss as opposed to Terran because, of course, and here we go, that's that warp in we were all waiting for. Full saturation on both of the bases right now. That's actually rather dangerous. It looks like the Zealots are just going to come in here and target this down. Meanwhile, we do have Protoss moving to take the upper left. Yes, this was all basically metagamed out in EternityYosh's head. Fourth is now secure, but it looks like the fifth, excuse me, the third is in a lot of trouble. Queen is about to get taken down, and there's almost no way for... Oh my god. Hayden's going to lose a lot of drones here. This is the most important part of it, guys. Yosh basically had a plan with this, and now there's no escape for the drones. They all just got killed by 2 single Colossus swipes, and meanwhile we saw yet another drop at the 4th base. That means Hayden, if he cannot hold here, he's going to lose this game. That's a lot of banelings, and they are connecting with the Colossi quite beautifully, but it just wasn't enough for Hayden. Of course, one thing that we can take away from this is that Hayden actually has basically, you know, he can use a bunch of roaches against what he's got now, but of course he's also going right now for the Ultralisk Cavern. He's got +3/+3. I should have paid attention to the upgrades earlier, and that would have told the story of what kind of late game tech we'll see. And now we basically have a 3-base Protoss against a 2.5 base Zerg. I see, well, 2.5. No kidding, it's at yellow HP and about 150 HP short of being at half HP. Now, EternityYosh is probably thinking, oh great, I lost a lot from that engagement, but nowhere near as much as what we have from basically our, you know, Hayden. Hayden's trying to go for the double expo again. This is getting increasingly dangerous because, of course, right now the main is completely mined out. If we check the income right now, it's nowhere near favoring him. You know, the income is telling the story, guys. There's no other way to say it. And it looks like we may see a prevention here, but it's going to cost so many lings, it just may not be worth it. You know, this is the one thing that Zerg is not meant to do, but... Oh, boy. I guess you could say Hayden kind of made it worth his time. He went in there, he got a prevention on the 4th. If he can bring himself up to speed economically, which I don't know is going to happen or not, he could basically come back in this game. Warp Prism right now, warping in a lot of Zealots in the main. Unfortunately, it looks like, you know, I mean, I think this is not enough links to deal with what we have here, but luckily there's some roaches coming in. Hayden's trying to put himself back in this game. I encourage it. I support it. And, you know, the show must go on, guys. Basically, that's what we see here, but we have nothing but minerals from EternityYosh being thrown away right now. Warp Prism's going to get sacked, or not sacked, but rather destroyed, just straight out. We do finally have some Ultralisks in the composition, and they are gonna be, I don't know, let's see, do they have their +5 yet? Let's find that out. Where did they go? Here we are. Yes, they are +5. But, again, there's a lot of Archons here. And Archons are basically AoE. I remember casting a game between Idra and Protoss. I can't remember who. I think he belonged to the Mouse team. But essentially what had happened was Idra ended up using a bunch of Vipers to yank the Archons into his main army, and he had no clue what he was doing. Like, he you know, it's like smothering a grenade with Zerglings. It's just not a good idea. But now we have the late game transition from EternityYosh. Of course, this is rather standard. Something we see increasingly trending. Void Rays are now being integrated into the composition. Aspire just now going down for Hayden. And I want to say that presently Hayden's doing pretty okay in terms of income. Let's check that. I mean, yeah. It's not too beautiful. Lactoid giving me a message. Sorry, let me go ahead and casting replay. Sorry. Okay. Lactoid rings a bell, but I'm not entirely sure who he is. You know, I mean, we basically have new essential Heart of the Swarm Death Ball here from our Protoss. I can't see Hayden coming out over this unless he's got, like, say, beautiful, absolutely beautiful burrowed Banelings. There is no Observer here. That's what's the most important part about all of this. Like, he could have actually done that. I don't know, guys. If you ever see yourself in a situation like this where you lose so much, then it would be a good idea to do this. But here we go. Huge engagement. Ultra's coming into the mix right now as well. And it looks like the engagement is okay for Hayden. He's gonna maybe be able to hold this, but if we just look at the Ultras, their HP, you know, they just are not anti-air, and the Void Rays are melting them one at a time. Will the Colossus fall? No, it will not. The Mortals are here, and now the Void Rays are free to basically take down this third. Of course, fifth is going down at the same time behind all of this, but of course our Protoss already has its fifth. We have to see these drones basically get put in the appropriate position, and oh, that's a beautiful throw on the Colossus falls behind all of this. Can we see the Queens come back? Oh my god, Hayden's pushing back! He's like, okay, well, now's my opportunity to do it, and this line of thinking is not necessarily flawed. The only problem is there's an Archon here, and the positioning is not good for Hayden. He's basically throwing Lings away, I think, for an unfavorable engagement. Most of these Archons will be done by the time that most of the frontline forces are done for, and there they are. Yes, unfortunately. This Phoenix is free to go to town on these Overlords. It's just not focusing any of them down one at a time. And it looks like we got we have double Warp Prisms going into the main right now. I'm wondering what this is all about. Is this something for bad man, or is this a misclick? Drones getting pulled, and they're going to get put on this base, but of course we have all the forces in here that are going to put a stop to that, and the drones are like, okay, well, let's not go that way. Let's go down this way. Good idea by Hayden. You know, I mean, he's doing his best to stay in this game for as long as he can. Gotta give him props for that, and he's getting some pretty okay engagements, but I think that last one, if he wanted to win it, all he had to do was pull Queens. The Transfuses would have destroyed the Colossi. And now we see, okay, Muta's coming into the mix. Interesting choice. But we already have High Templar here, which are entirely dependent upon Micro. And I think what we're going to see from Yosh is, or not Yosh, but basically Hayden, is him trying to harass everything he can. This mineral line is relatively exposed. There's a lot of probes out here in the open as well. If he simply had, I don't know, maybe superior creep spread, or perhaps taken this Zelnaga Watchtower, he would probably be pretty okay. And oh my god, Hayden just trying to do what he can to stay in this game, and he's doing a good job of it, really. I mean, whoa. And now we actually see Hayden no longer oblivious to what his opponent is doing. He's like, okay, well, now's the time to take all this down, and he's trying to. Phoenixes, unfortunately, do outrange Mutas, and the Stargate numbers are just absolutely absurd. Just check this out, guys. Like, come on, let's check out the tech. Where is it? Sorry about that. We should have been following those guys. You know, there's 3 Stargates already. I'm not sure if that's including the unpowered ones or not. I wouldn't be surprised to find that it does. But right now, I mean, if there's any time for Hayden to retaliate, it would be the present, simply due to the fact that there is so very little here in the way of Stargate production. Yes, there are 3 Phoenixes being cranked out at a time, but 2 of them are unpowered. And now it seems that, oh, here it is. This is the whole reason why Hayden is turning around. But these poor Mutas, they've been misrallied. Yeah, they're not going to get out of there alive. poor guys. It looks like they will be able to get a few Phoenix kills, maybe, but the most important part is getting over here and killing these. Phoenix is still being cranked out 3 at a time, though. I think it's almost in vain that he's targeting them down. Most of his supply right now is tied up in mutas. That is 48 supply right now, simply in mutas. And I'm not entirely sure what else there is in terms of like what he could do for supply. I think really he should keep on the economic hurdle. He should be going to other bases, trying to kill probes as much as possible, because probes are so much more valuable to Protoss than drones are for Zerg. We can simply remax with 16 larva and that's it. That can be done easily in the late game. But at the same time, you know, Protoss, they have to save Chrono Boost. They have to use Chrono Boost. They have to, and like the more bases they get on, the easier it is to do. Still, it is the slowest remax time of any race in the game. Here we go, Mass Mutaball going into the 5th base of EternityYosh. And it looks like he's going to just straight up target down this Nexus. May not be the best choice. And I think he's basically stalling for time. Maybe he's just not taking this game seriously anymore. He knows that it's gonna... Yeah, it's basically over. There it is. I didn't think he was gonna quit this soon, but, you know, I mean... Anyone who plays at least the diamond level could have seen that. In essence, Geeden was basically stalling for time there. All that he was making was mutas. Mutas don't do the best versus phoenixes. There's only a handful here, yes, but they superbly outrange the mutas. And of course, Geeden just saw, okay, well, his main army is just simply sick of dealing with mutas, so they're going to go in for the kill on the natural and then the main. So yeah, if you guys liked what you saw here today, just go ahead and click on the subscribe button. This has been Breaker. I'll see you guys next time.